say, Wallah al-Azim, I mean this with this oath, I mean that I'm asking for the strength of the God, or the strength of this deity. And also when the deity give an oath with his creature, he is revealing and is emphasizing his strength and his power and his mightiness in this creature. So that when God say, well, ardi that as-sada, and in most of this surah, always God adjurate and give oaths with his creatures. وَالسَّمَاءَ طَارَقْ وَالْأَرْضُ وَهَكَذَا, and so on. So when God says, well, ardi that as-sada, he means here the God that as-sada, that is he's revealing his mightiness and his strength in the sada, or in the faults. So why the faults? The faults doesn't occur in the earth except in the earthquakes and volcanoes. As we say that the crust, or the crust of the earth is with several layers, and below this there's the magma, or the molten rocks under this. So the strength, I think that the God wants to reveal his strength or his mightiness in his creature, which is full of strength. And as the creator is higher than the creature, so even if the creature has a strength, so the God is more strong.
Barakallah fi.
So that's.
And Khalid?
Just want to comment on one thing. It's how beautiful is our Quran. MashaAllah. If you link everything is linked together. The surah, as you rightly said, is called the knocker, and which is knocking, saying try to understand what's in the verse.
Yes.
Don't just read it and try to understand what's behind it.
Yes.
So it's basically try to understand what's this, when we say, well, amzat sad, the fault, it means something behind it. So you have to study it and try to analyze what's behind it.
Yes.
And it's also very much related to the verse after that, innahu laqawlu fasl, which means that it's these words are going to be separating between believers and unbelievers. So people have to look into what's behind the words, and you have to decide for yourself if you really believe in God and if you believe in the Quran and how beautiful it is. It's all links and all coming together.
Barakallah fiik. So this short verse, وَالْأَرْضِ ذَاتَ الصَّدْعِ, by the earth that has got its own folds, its own cracks, along which movement can take place. As Manal quite justifiably said, it is these cracks along which movement took place were the sources of the formation of the ocean basins. And without ocean basins, the water of the earth, the hydrosphere, could have covered the earth in full, and man and the animals and the plants could have never found any piece of land to live on. And that's why these faults were the main reason for shaping the surface of the earth into depressed areas and highly elevated ones. Without this topography, the earth could have never been inhabitable. Secondly, along these faults, both the atmosphere and the hydrosphere of the earth were formed, were generated. So water vapor came along volcanic activity, and this was mainly along these fault lines. They come also along the volcanic vents, but mainly along these lines. So both the atmosphere and the hydrosphere of the earth were formed through these cracks. Not only this, we came to realize that these faults are very deep. They cut across the outer rocky layer of the earth completely. They are 65 kilometers deep at the bottoms of oceans and seas, and they are 150 kilometers deep on land. And these cracks or faults, or cracks along which movement can take place, are actually safety valves for the earth, because the earth has got many radioactive elements right in its inside. And these radioactive elements, Allah has given them the capacity to decay spontaneously. And they decay at certain rates. And as they decay, they generate heat. And unless this heat found a safety valve through which it would be released peacefully and gently, the earth could have exploded as a huge atomic bomb at the very moment of the solidification of its outer crust. And that's why Allah is showing his bounties upon man by these cracks, by these faults. Unless these faults were there, life on the surface of that planet could have been impossible. So Allah has given the oath by one of his creation, the faults of the earth, the cracks along which movement can take place, the faults that have shaped the topography of the earth, raised some to high peaks and depressed some to low-lying areas, And we now know that all oceans, all seas have initially started by rift systems, deep faults that would crack the earth, and then the magma would come along these cracks to push the sides of the continent away from each other, and longitudinal seas like the Red Sea would be gradually enlarged into oceans like the Atlantic Ocean or the Indian Ocean. How marvelous, how wonderful, how these simple lines can testify to the wisdom, knowledge and might of the Creator, and that's why the oath is given by them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He mentions an oath in the Holy Quran, it's a way of directing our attention to the importance of the matter by which the oath is given. And that's why we realize today that the faults of the earth, the cracks of the earth along which movement takes place, is an essential factor for making our planet inhabitable and suitable for living. Not only this, but as Manar also mentioned quite justifiably, early commentators in the Holy Quran, when they first read this verse, they limited it to the slight cracks formed in the soils to allow a free passageway for the tender, gentle, germinating shoot that's coming from within a germinating seed. And unless Allah has given the soil of the earth this capacity to crack on watering, the earth could have never been suitable for any plantation. And if there were no plants, no animals. No plants and no animals, no life, no human beings, you see. And that's why, in a few words, Allah is showing His bounties upon us to encompass these cracks at the lowest scale, cracks of the soil, to allow a free passageway for a germinating seed, and the cracks at the bottoms of oceans and seas to create depressed areas, to encompass water bodies, to make seas and oceans, and at the same time to be free safety valves for allowing the great and immense quantities of heat that is generated at the core of the earth, or in the inner part of the earth, to be released peacefully, safely, and take with it not only the heat but the water vapor that constitutes the hydrosphere, as well as the gases that constitute our atmosphere. So we can see in this وَالْأَرْضِ ذَاتِ الصَّدْعِ 3 words, a number of scientific facts that may take books to write on and to decipher and to explain. And this is one of the greatest qualities of the Quran, that a verse comes in a few words, and these few words contain an immense amount of knowledge, because it is the divine word in its divine purity and in its divine language. Nadine, to comment on what I have said and what the colleagues have said.
Okay, I was just imagining, what if these cracks or these faults are not happening while the seeds are coming out of the earth?
Yes.
So it's a little detail, but it's so important for these seeds to come out, for being plants, or for coming out trees and these things. It's so important. It's a little detail, but so important for us and for these creatures